my favorite American beer, my biggest weakness, and so much more. Today I'm answering your questions about me. Hallo, Servus, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Felicia. I was born and raised in Munich, Germany, but I have been living off and on in Cincinnati, Ohio since 2016. So last week I hit 20,000 subscribers on my channel, which is crazy. So I just want to say thank you guys so much for your support, for your loyalty. It really means a lot to me. So a big Dankeschön to every one of you. And as a 20,000 subscribers special, I thought I could do something that I don't really do a whole lot on here, and that is being a little bit more personal. So today I'm going to be answering personal questions that you guys asked me in the YouTube comments and on Instagram, and I would say let's just jump right in. How tall are you? I'm 163 centimeters tall, which is about 5'4". And fun fact, I'm actually shorter than the average German woman, but I'm a little bit taller than the average American woman. Which American beer do you like the most? So my favorite kind of beer is lager, which is probably because I grew up in Bavaria, and in Bavaria we mostly drink lagers and Weissbier, Hefeweizen. So my favorite beers are definitely German lagers. American beer tastes a little bit more watery compared to German beer in general. But my number one go-to beer here is Budweiser, just because I personally think it's a decent beer, you can get it almost everywhere, and it's relatively cheap. I also like Miller High Life, Yingling, Blue Moon, and Corona, but of course that doesn't really count. What I don't really like a lot are all the IPAs and craft beers here in the US, even though I know a lot of people enjoy them a lot, but that's just not for me. I have a question that I'm sure comes up a lot. What are your and other Germans' opinion on Rammstein? To be completely honest, Rammstein is not really a topic that I talk about with other Germans a lot, but yes, Americans have asked me about them before a few times. I personally don't like their music at all, but they're definitely talked about a lot in Germany because of their provocative music and videos. And they're one of the most successful German-speaking bands internationally, so that's quite an accomplishment. Skyline or Gold Star? Okay, so this is a Cincinnati question. Skyline Chili is this restaurant here that was founded by Greek immigrants and that Cincinnati is known for. And a lot of Cincinnatians go there a lot, like several times a week or at least once a week, and they're craving it whenever they're not in Cincinnati, but I'm definitely not one of those people. So to answer the question, I've never actually tried Gold Star, which is like the rival restaurant, but I have tried Skyline several times, and I'm sorry I have to say this, Cincinnati, but I don't like it at all. Maybe you've heard me say before that I'm vegetarian, and I'm actually vegetarian because I just don't like the taste of meat. Never have since I was a little kid, but I did try Skyline several times. I gave it a chance. And I even tried it once at 3 a.m. when I was drunk and starving, and I still didn't like it then. So that kind of means something. Plus, in my opinion, Skyline restaurants have an awful lighting and atmosphere, so sorry, Cincinnati people. What made you decide to go to Cincinnati? I've answered this question before in another Q&A video, so I'm just gonna link the video in the description box below. But basically, my department at my German university during my undergrad had an exchange program with the University of Cincinnati, so I came here for an exchange semester and kind of got stuck, I guess. Why did you decide to stay in America? One reason is definitely that I love the American culture, and I've lived in Germany my whole life, so I was kind of just ready to do something new, to get out of my comfort zone, have the excitement of living in a foreign country, challenging myself and all of that. But in detail, I dated an American during my exchange semester here, so that was definitely the initial motivation to come back here. But even though that relationship ended, I kept coming back. I got my master's here, and then of course I was lucky enough to win the green card lottery. And without that, I wouldn't have been able to stay here anyway, so it had a lot to do with that, and I still really enjoy it here. Which one of the original 6 breweries in Munich is your favorite? Definitely Augustina. It's my absolute favorite. I kind of grew up with it, if you can say that. And I even sometimes buy it here in the US for special occasions, even though it's pretty expensive here. For a 6-pack of 0.3 liter bottles, you pay $15 here, while in Germany, 1/2 liter bottle costs only 50 cents, but it's worth it for me. Favorite tent at Wiesn. Wiesn is the local name for Oktoberfest, that's how we call it in Munich, and there are 17 tents in total by the 6 original Munich breweries that were just mentioned. And even though I love Augustiner beer, I don't usually go into their tents at Oktoberfest, just because the different tents usually have like a different clientele, different band playing, a different atmosphere, etc. So my favorite tent has always been the Hacker tent, the Hacker Festzelt. And I would say my least favorite tents are the Spaten tents, because I think Spaten beer is not a really good beer. But the tents are still fun, so I still sometimes go there anyway. Will you go to Asian countries in the future? I don't have any concrete plans, but I hope so. That would be really cool. I have been to Thailand once before, and I've been on the Asian side of Turkey, but I guess that doesn't really count. So I definitely love to see more of Asia, yes. What's your favorite thing about Cincinnati? I like a lot of things about Cincinnati actually, but one thing that I really like is its size and how much space there is. It's a big city with all of the perks that a city has to offer, but at the same time, it's not very crowded, which I really enjoy as someone who grew up in a very crowded city with no space for apartments, let alone parking. And Cincinnati is one of those typical Midwestern cities where you can basically drive everywhere and always find parking pretty close to where you want to go. So that's something that I personally really enjoy and find really relaxing. And I also really like that there is a lot of German heritage in Cincinnati. Tipps, mit Amerikanern Kontakte zu knüpfen? Any tips as to how to connect with Americans? I would say just walk up to them and start talking to them, honestly. I've personally never found it hard to get in touch with Americans because most of them are very open and really enjoy talking to strangers. And if you're from a foreign country, a lot of them will find that really exciting, and that can also be a really good first topic to talk about. Have you ever been to Las Vegas? I've been once and I loved it, but I was only 17 then, so I wasn't allowed to party or gamble at all, so I definitely want to go back sometime. How do you stay so happy and positive when life can be so hard? That's a really deep question, and thank you first of all, but I'm not always happy and positive. I think nobody is. I think it's natural to have good and bad days in life, and I've definitely had a lot of bad days in my life. But whenever I was going through a bad phase, I never really made videos, so I think you just wouldn't have seen it. But I think what helps me personally is that I believe in destiny, and I don't really have a plan in my life. I just kind of believe that things are supposed to happen the way they're happening, and I have faith in myself first of all, but also I have faith that there's going to be opportunities coming up that are going to lead me wherever I'm supposed to be. Has your family visited you in the US? Yes, they have. My parents visited me in 2018, and then last year for my graduation in May 2019, my dad and brother came, and then we went on a road trip afterwards. But my family's also been to the US several times before I even moved here. What is your favorite American food that isn't common in Germany? Mac and cheese, for sure. And obviously this doesn't really count, but I also really love the Mexican food here, and I always miss that whenever I'm in Germany. What was your experience learning English in Germany? I learned English in school from 5th through 12th grade. It was mandatory, and I would say that I had a pretty good experience actually. I had an amazing English teacher the first few years who was really structured, which was very helpful. So shout out to Herr Unterhuber, Dankeschön. Like most Europeans, we learned British English in school, and of course, like most language classes, you mostly learn like textbook English, so you don't learn a lot of slang or colloquial terms. Instead, we talked a lot about politics, globalization, literature, and those kind of things. And we also read a few books in English class. One of them that I remember was Of Mice and Men. If you were to fall in love with and marry an American, would you want to become a citizen? I don't know, actually. I've never really thought about that. But I think that if I were to become a citizen, it wouldn't be because of a man, because I'm already a permanent resident. So if I stay here, I would be able to become a citizen either way. What sort of music do you listen to? Basically everything that grooves, everything that has real instruments in it. I also really like R&B and hip-hop, but what I don't like and what I don't miss about Germany at all is EDM music. What's it like dating in America versus Germany? For that one, you should definitely check out my video on dating differences because I've actually dedicated a whole video just to that question and it's linked in the info box below. What's one thing that you look forward to doing here that you haven't yet? Wow, that's a question that I've never actually thought about before, but I think maybe buying a house would be kind of cool here because a lot of the houses and properties here are really big, and at least in Cincinnati they're pretty cheap compared to where I'm from, so I think that would be fun, but I'm not sure if that's ever gonna happen for me. What is your favorite European city outside of Germany? That one I find kind of difficult to answer because I personally find it kind of hard to compare different cities with each other because they're all just so different. But if I had to name one, I really like Prague. I also really like London and cities in the Scandinavian countries. Would you take the one-way trip to Mars if they chose you? No, absolutely not. What do you think is your biggest weakness? That's a really deep and personal question, but I would probably say that one of my biggest weaknesses is that I'm too sensitive sometimes. How did you get rid of your German accent? I know a lot of people probably won't believe this, but I never actually tried to get rid of my accent, not on purpose at least, so I'm not one of those people who sits down and practices pronunciation. But I did watch a lot of American shows when I was a teenager, and when I came here in 2016, I think I just naturally adapted. But whenever I learn a new word in English, then yes, I do listen to how Americans say it and try to imitate that because that's how you're supposed to say the word. But overall, I think I'm a pretty musical person and I've heard that that helps a lot with pronunciation and inflection. After having lived in the US for a while, have you found now that there are things in Germany that you no longer like? There have always been things that I didn't like about Germany, a lot actually. But yes, a few things have been added to that list since I moved to the US. I now really hate how bad German customer service is, for example. I just don't understand why people have to be so rude, and sometimes they even make you feel like you're a burden on them, even though you're a paying customer. It's really not that hard to be friendly to people. How did you finance your student time in the US? I've answered this in another Q&A video before, also linked below, but basically I got my bachelor's in Germany, where university is pretty much free, and then when your university has an exchange program with a university abroad, it's common that you only pay the tuition fee to your home university, so I only had to pay a few fees in the US back then, and then when I did my master's in the US, I actually got a full scholarship, so I didn't have to pay any tuition, and I also got paid on top of that for my teaching assistant position, so that was pretty nice. Okay, so obviously these weren't all the questions that you guys asked me, but I really tried to answer as many as possible, and I hope you guys enjoyed getting to know me a little bit better. I'm definitely going to make another Q&A video soon with more culture-related questions, so feel free to leave your question in the comments below and make sure to also put the hashtag #AskAGerman so that I can find the question when I make the video. And of course, give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for free, and also make sure to activate the bell because you won't get a notification for new videos otherwise. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope I'll see you next time. Tschüss!